We've got a stellar lineup for you. Allahumma barik. Nothing but the best. Inshallah, our panel today, both this panel and the one towards the end, will revolve around the theme of the event, which is redefining success. Our guests today embody that. So inshallah, I'll give you a quick introduction and then I'll allow them to speak for themselves and give you some insight into their story, their background, and then we'll get into it, inshallah. So I've got Wonda and Hamza. Wonda is a serial entrepreneur. For those of you, probably a different generation, but Wonda went through a lot of different iterations, Allahumma barik, until he got to where he is today. He has a luxury smoothie brand, and I'm sure he'll go into detail regarding his story, regarding the journey and what the future looks like, inshallah. Hamza is a life coach and someone who is in that space. He is leveraging that now to another level where he's developing training, methodology, and providing the model for future life coaches to be able to do what he did and be able to scale that for themselves. So I'm going to, without further ado, I'll start with Wonda, inshallah. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, first and foremost. And thank you for inviting me, and thank you to the organizer for arranging this amazing event. So a bit about myself, I'll keep it short and sweet. Sorry. Thank you. Just a bit about myself. I think some of you lot might know, depends on the generation. We was probably the forefront in terms of UK Somali content before it started to where it is now, where there are people that are doing amazing. And we've done quite a bit of things in between that, whether that was businesses and art, fashion. I wouldn't consider modeling fashion, but nonetheless.
High fashion.
Yeah, subjective. And yeah, we've done so many other things, and alhamdulillah, obviously we started an entrepreneurial journey, which has started prior to Wonda Mix, with selling perfumes, even starting the whole content side of hijama, and this was way prior to COVID, to what it is now, mashallah. A lot of brothers and sisters are doing it, and now obviously we are on a journey where we want to kind of encourage and inspire the next generation, ourselves and those that are here, to start a niche brand or niche business, which maybe many people are not doing, and kind of making the impossible happen with something as ridiculous as smoothie, if I'm being honest. I hope that summarized it. So, everyone understood what I was saying? Sorry, because the mic is a bit, and I'm a bit deaf today. Yeah? Very high up. Yeah. Jazakallah khair. So yeah, that's a bit about us, and yeah, man. Thank you for having me once again.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I feel like there's not a lot of energy in the room. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. How you guys doing? First of all, I just want to say Jazakallah khairan to every single person that was involved in this event. I know, honestly, I've done a lot of events before, and I know how much effort it takes to actually do this. So I just want us to all give a huge shout out to every single person that was involved. Can we give a huge round of applause to them, please? I guess, who am I and what do I do? I am Hamza. I am a coach. For those who don't know, a coach is someone who just call it therapy on steroids. That's how I like to describe it. And subhanAllah, I'm one of the co-founders of Mind Manual. A lot of you guys are probably wondering, what is Mind Manual? And Mind Manual, in essence, is literally just teaching people how the mind works, giving them the manual, the manual of how the mind works. Imagine being able to have access to something where you can understand what are the things that drive people, what are the things, why do people do what they do? There are specific reasons why they do what they do. As much as they think they're just doing it for the sake of whatever it is, it's because of the way they've been programmed. You can give I can talk to someone for 5 minutes and I'll know exactly where they're going to head in the next couple of years if they don't change the way they think, because of the way their mindset is shaped. And so in essence, what we do is we help aspiring and existing coaches scale to 10K per month in their coaching business. If they don't know, then we certify them and we help them scale. And that is Mind Manual in a nutshell.
Amazing. Barakallah fi. Well, I'll start with yourself. You kind of introduced it a little bit, but your journey has been anything but linear. SubhanAllah, you went from football to modeling, content creation, and then entrepreneurship. And even within entrepreneurship, you had your own journey. You went through different businesses until you kind of decided on Wonda Mix. It's a fascinating journey. At what point, did it click for you that this is what I want to do, and what kind of role did your faith play in making that transition from where you were to where you are now?
So, little disclaimer, I didn't have an identity crisis. It was more of opportunities have come to me in various of ways. And I was always the type that I wanted to always just be curious and see what that world was, whether to share information for the next people, to either do it or don't, and just kind of learn what it was for what it is. It wasn't more of a hobby, it was more of just opportunity. And alhamdulillah, I'm kind of glad I got that kind of opportunity because it allowed me to learn. It allowed me to share information where maybe people from our background might not have access to or have not experienced that. And I feel like that's more pivotal and sometimes it's better than wealth. And I'm sure the brother and those that have more knowledge than me, they can emphasize on the importance of knowledge. And I guess that's what we're here for, right? To share information. And so that was more of my calling. And alhamdulillah, obviously, as we get older and have a better understanding of our identity, which is to be a Muslim and try to be the best Muslim as we can, we try to venture on things that allow us to excel in that particular department. And I felt like business was a great way of demonstrating that in terms of Islamic teaching, in terms of just showing ethical business and educating others on perfecting the side of business and not just taking any shortcuts. So Islam has played a huge part. It played more huge part now to me than when I was younger, where I didn't really have much Islam in my life and probably did things that maybe I might have not done now. But alhamdulillah, I'm kind of glad I went to that because I still had the same mindset, which is to share information, whether I was young or if I'm a bit older. And I believe that obviously Islam was the foundation that was missing from my life to try to excel and take it to the next level. I hope that answered the question.
No, absolutely.
Sorry, I'll go on a bit on a tangent. So you guys got to be patient with me, all right? So, yeah.
Hamza, you mentioned in the beginning of your introduction that you're a coach, and now you're making that transition from being just a coach where you deal with people on an individual basis to creating a manual. That's a pretty big jump. At what point did you find that the impact that mindset has on success, and how did that shape your approach?
I've been in business for the last 10 years and I've tried so many different businesses. I've tried Amazon, Forex, stocks, investment, real estate, you name it. I've done a lot of different businesses. Some of them small successes, some of them failure, completely failure. And subhanAllah, I was at this event and it was an event that was happening in America, in Nashville. And in this event, I don't know. And in this event, it was like a marketing event. There was a lot of sorry, just the mic is really bugging out. Okay, that's fine. Let me try this one. Might be stuck. So at this event, subhanAllah, it was they were giving out awards. The awards was for anyone who wins $1 million, they'll get an award. Anyone who wins 10 million, this is 10 million in their business, they'll get an award. Anyone who makes 100 million, they'll get an award. And there was a guy that was there and that won the 100 million award. I was like, whoa, I'm trying to get to 1. How has he done it 100 times what I'm trying to do? And subhanAllah, I saw him and everybody rushed him after the event and they're trying to talk to him and they're trying to get tips from him. So I waited in the background and I saw him after literally a couple of hours, he left and I followed him. And subhanAllah, I went up to him, I said to him, look, I know you've been bombarded with a lot of questions. I just want to ask you one question. I've done so many different businesses. I've failed. I can't imagine how many businesses. And subhanallah, I know I'm the common denominator because I see other people succeeding. So what is it that I'm doing wrong? What do you think I should be doing? And he looked at me and he paused and he said, what you need to do is you need to control the voices between these two ears. Between those two ears, you need to control the voices. I was like, that sounds so smart, but what are you talking about? Like, how do I control that voice? What does that mean? How is that helping me succeed? And fast forward, it was a lot of milestones. There was a lot of stories that happened. And subhanAllah, eventually I've noticed it was the mind that I needed to understand. It was my own limitations, my own beliefs, my own fears, whatever it is that are stopping me from actually moving forward. And that's when I said, okay, if that's the case, before I even move into any business, I need to learn this thing here. Because we have it, we can use it to our potential. We can, the potentials are unlimited, it's unreal. And subhanAllah, that's when I started learning about how the mind works, and I spent a lot of money just understanding it and learning about it. And I remember the moment I started to understand how the mind works, not like every part of my life have started to slowly improve. And especially my finance side, it literally doubled, tripled within the first year. I was like, whoa, okay, I need to double down on this. And that's when I started to notice the impact of just changing certain beliefs, just changing the main things that are holding you back. You may not even wonder those beliefs, but it's important, it's vital to your success. Otherwise, if you don't fix that, then you'll be stuck.
Amazing. Thank you, Hamza. Wonda, we'll come back to yourself. We find that a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, people that are interested in getting into business, there's a real fear of failure and a worry about switching paths too often. So doing different things and jumping from one thing to another, or trying to figure things out, because you're not always going to figure out in the first time. For someone like yourself who's embraced multiple paths, you've done different businesses, you've ventured in different ways. What do you feel is the approach that's helped you to achieve that? So in your perspective, what do you define as success? And how can your journey help people who are kind of thinking about that stuff?
So as I mentioned earlier, I've learned things prior to learning my religion, right? And after when I did study a bit of it, it allowed me to kind of apply that as much as I can. And going back to what you said, one of the main foundation was just having that information of my basic belief and incorporating that in my work, whether that's being consistent, and you can just go back to, if you want to cross-reference in terms of the Islamic perspective of what's more dear to Allah, which is something that is small but consistent, right? And then you can apply that term consistency in whatever you want to do. So these little things is what helped me kind of try to slowly scale, and most importantly, be patient. Again, patient goes back to Islam, and then you have to incorporate that into the entrepreneurial aspect. So alhamdulillah, I feel like that information has helped me at my later age, and it allowed me to excel more than I might have excelled prior to that, when I didn't have any Islamic understanding. And I feel like that's something that's pivotal for all of us to kind of use as a tool to pursue whatever we want to pursue, whether that's career-driven or even just anything other than that. That tool and information is something that's not just to be applied spiritually, but also to be applied other than that, And I feel like sometimes we forget, we think, when someone talks about the deen, etc., it's like, okay, can I just apply this in that matter, or can I apply in other affairs as well? And I feel like for me, personally, I've applied that a lot in the business side of it. Can I say I apply everything correctly? Absolutely not. And here's why it's important to also be aware that you are going to fail. And again, you can cross-reference that with Iman, up and down, right? But it's just more of understanding, okay, you're going to fail, you're going to be patient with it, but also be consistent with it. So these are different extracts that you can actually take from Islam and apply that into whatever you want to do, studies, work, whatever it might be. So I always feel like that's kind of the trick. What can Islam teach me about this particular thing? Not much more, I'm not even talking about the haram and halal side, but the benefit of what you can do, because I'm guessing all of us are striving to do halal anyway. So it's just more of how can we just extract that into our day-to-day life?
Perfect. Just to kind of follow up on that. So in terms of going from selling, from your car, going from city to city, going across London, and scaling up to a point now where you have a luxury storefront in one of the most prestigious kind of areas within London, central London. That's a pretty big step. It's a pretty big jump. How, walk us through that. So, the challenges that come with going from there to there, having the kind of the vision and, the mindset to be like, okay, this is where I am now, this is where I see myself. Yeah. What's that journey like?
I mean, that journey was mentally draining, but again, going back to Islam, just having that belief in Allah allowed me to be consistent in where I was starting from, where we currently are, and where we like to believe we want to be. It comes from just strong belief and like certainty in what I believe in Allah, right? In dua, like I'm just a kid making dua. That's all I see it as, right? From when I started the product, from even we're coming to Birmingham, shout out to everyone that supports in Birmingham, to just we started with a product which was 2. Imagine when you have to hear either your friends or family or those around you thinking, what, you're only going to sell a product that's smoothie or 2 products? But it's like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I believe in my risk anyway, and I believe in making dua. So it's just like, but again, those extracts is what helped me throughout my whole journey to currently now, right? And even when, alhamdulillah, by Allah's tawfiq, where we were given the chance to be where we are now, it was like, you still have to have that, hear those noises in the background. So, but again, it's like, where do you follow the noise, or do you believe in making dua for whatever it is, and you'll get it? Sometimes we see these TikTok videos where someone's making dua in a cap of 500 billion pound. I don't find that ridiculous, you know what I mean? But some people might. But I guess that comes down to the level of iman, and that's understandable. But it comes also to the fact that how much trust you want to base in Allah in whatever you want to do, whether it's business, studies, marriage, whatever it is. And I think that was my pivotal information that I had to use from the start to currently now. It's just like, no, I believe in Allah. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to try to be consistent on what we're doing. And yeah, you just have to block the noise. And again, this comes also when, as Muslims, we don't realize it, but day to day, we have to block these noises, in terms of applying your Islamic faith in your day-to-day life. Whether you're wearing hijab and you're feeling the pressure of, society, you have to block that noise. Or where your friends feel like, I should take this off, I should do this, I should, cut a bit of my head. These are noises that we have to deal with every day. So, but at the same time, when you just remember Allah's promise is true and Allah's reward is true, that should be that certainty that should keep you, grounded as much as you can. I know it's not easy, but for me, that's what's helped me as much as I can.
It's not easy, but it helps.
It helps. It's not easy because you have a lot of factors, and that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to go up and down. But as long as you have this foundation where, I might punch you, right? Sorry, I'm just going left. Right. But it's like, I know it's wrong. No, but I know it's wrong, right? My foundation is that we've been taught that that's wrong. And I feel like as long as you have that foundation and you try to go back to as much as you can, you'll be fine. But at the same time, don't be scared of making mistakes. Don't be scared of falling into things that maybe you're not proud of. But as long as you try your best to try to go back to your foundation as much as you can, inshallah, will be okay.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Wonda, for that answer. Back to you, Hamza. A lot of us, we understand what we need to do to succeed. It's not very difficult, if we're going to be honest. We know what we need to do, whether it's in life, whether it's in work, whether it's in, wherever it is. What we need to do is pretty clear, but we still struggle. From your experience in mindset work, as a coach and developing other coaches, what's the biggest misconception that you found in success, and how do you help clients overcome that?
That's a very good question, by the way. The biggest misconception is that that we know, you guys have all heard the statement of success equals, 80% of success is mindset. The other 20% is, the mechanics, the strategy, whatever it is. How many of you guys have actually heard that before? Quite decent. And I can see some of you guys are paying attention as well. So in terms of like actually the biggest misconception is that when it comes to success, the mind has a big role in the way you think. The decisions that you make actually have a big impact on where you go in your life. How many of you guys have made a decision and that decision has completely and drastically changed your whole life because you made a simple decision? But it's not a simple decision. That decision came from the way you think. It could be from a fear, from a place of fear, place of judgment, or whatever the case might be. And subhanAllah, the problem in society is that, like we know what we need to do. We know the steps to succeed is not that hard. And I always come back to this story of, like, I remember I was sitting at this table, and subhanAllah, there was a guy who's multi-millionaire. He's not sitting on the table, and it was more of like a discussion kind of conversation. And I asked him a question. I said to him, look, I'm doing all of this. Like, what is it that I'm not doing right? And he said to me, look, the reason why you're not succeeding is because you're not in the state to succeed. I was like, what does that mean? What do you mean I'm not in the state to succeed? He said, if I tell a 6-month-old baby, hey, this is how to clean the toilet. Step 1, you need to do this. Step 2, you need to do this. Step 3, you need to do this. Would they do it? I was like, no, of course they're not. They won't. And he said, of course, because they're not in the state to be able to do it. However, if you bring me a 15-year-old and they've never, ever cleaned the toilets, however, I've given them the steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, will they be able to do it? 100%. Yeah, they would. Why? Because they're in the state to be able to do it. And he said, I can give you the steps of how to succeed, but you will not be able to do it because you're not in the state. I was like, okay, how can I get into that state? What does that mean? It means, have you guys ever been to that, like, where, in that situation where, for example, you do something and all of a sudden it's like, why did I do that? Like, that's so weird. Like, that's not me. Why would I do that? That was because you were in a bad state. On the other hand, you do something, everyone's like, oh my God, how did you do that? And you're like, yeah, I did that, man. That was me. You're the same person. Nothing changed. Or if you're playing sports and one day you're on it, like every day you're on it. Like that day you're scoring great shots. You're taking good shots and you're scoring. And on other days you're just off. It's just, no matter what shot you take, it doesn't go in. It's because you're not in that flow. You're not in that state of like, hey, here I am. I'm going to make it happen. And that state of like, just no matter what comes into your way, fear, judgment, it doesn't matter. You're just pushing it to the side. And it's easier said than done, but it takes a lot of internal work. And the biggest misconception is that we're not doing enough internal work for us to succeed in our journey.
Perfect. Thank you, Hamza. While I have you, Hamza, I'm unfortunately we're running out of time. As much as we'd like to have you for longer, we'll conclude with these last questions for the both of you. Hamza, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Very good question again. What advice would I give myself? I think one of the biggest things I would say to myself would be that the journey is hard. Like, no matter which way you look at it, whether it's going to a full-time job, whether it's starting a business, whatever journey, whether you want to be a single, whether you want to get married, it doesn't matter. It is hard. And we live in a society where everything comes at ease, everything is easy, everything comes quickly. You want convenience, you want comfortability, you want to order something and you'll get it the same day. We've been programmed that. And by default, we think, oh, I did this today and I didn't succeed, so I'm not good enough. And straight away, that's the first thing you jump into. I'm not good enough. You know what? Today, I messed up. I'm not good enough. And the one thing I would say to myself is, don't be too hard on yourself, in the sense that if you do make a mistake, it's okay. If it's hard, it's okay. It's supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, trust me, every single person will be doing it. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Because it's hard, that's why it's more rewarding. And just, always focusing on your why and why you're doing this, because sometimes we tend to forget. In that moment, you will forget. When you're going through that pain, you will forget. And I've come from a running background, and that has, alhamdulillah, helped me a lot in my journey. And you'll get to that point where you're running a marathon, for example, and you're not even halfway your quota, like, you're maybe a third way in, and you're already thinking, whoa, why did I sign up for this? This is hard. Like, why did I sign up for this? Like, what am I doing? But the thing is, you've got another 60, 80% in you that if you just go again, if you just break that wall, it's just that wall. If you break that wall, just that one wall, that's it, nothing else. Maybe it might be just, let me go through it today. Maybe it might be, let me just finish off this exam, or let me just do this 1 hour piece of work, whatever it is. That wall, if you break it, trust me, the other side is the most beautiful. Like, you will find, like, you'll be proud of yourself because you've done something that you said I'm going to do, and then you eventually did it. That's one thing I would say to myself.
Amazing. Jazakallah khair, Hamza. Barakallahu feek. Wonda, last question for yourself as well. And that's in relation to what it takes to build a business. Yeah. Building a business often requires strong community support. So you need a strong community behind you to propel you in order to succeed a lot of the time. How has your community played a role in your journey, and what advice would you give to others about building a community?
Absolutely played a huge part to where we're currently and where we want to be, inshallah. And I think it's very important that you communicate that to whoever is part of the brand or part of whatever you want it to be. I feel like once you make them feel like they are part of it, they want you to do well. And you have to make them understand why you're doing this as well. As Brother Hamza was saying, your why, is it to educate and also show the younger generation and also within ourselves that anything is possible. And also it's good to be, that requires courage firstly, to communicate that and show the good times and the bad times, okay? And once they see that and they can relate to that, it gives them the courage to obviously pursue whatever they want to pursue. That not everything is rosy, this is part of life. Just try to be consistent, be patient, and also be content of whatever is written in terms of qadr. And these are three foundations in Islam anyway, all right? And if you communicate that to the people that are supporting you and they're invested in you, and you also show them, and you're very transparent. I think transparency is an art that has been lost within our community. And again, that goes back to Islamic ethical manners, which is being honest, right? So it's not something that is new, but it's something that has been lost within our community. Be honest. And I feel like once they see that, hopefully it inspires them to understand the reality of whatever they want to pursue that. It's not rosy, but it's fine. It can happen, and it can still continue. And once they see that, I believe, hopefully it encourages them to also create their own community, because that's what we want, right? We want to create a huge hub for our communities where the next people can come in and it's like, Hamza has this information and he has his community, I have this community, and we can share and pass information and network. And I feel like that's something we lack a lot. There's a lot of gatekeeping, and how can we break that cycle? Is by being transparent. It takes a while, we've got to be patient with that, and we have to also be consistent in terms of understanding this is our mission. So if someone else is not trying to show the community what it can be done, that responsibility might fall on you to show them that, And as long as you believe in that, inshallah, you doing that itself, Allah will reward you and will, inshallah, allow your business to scale. And always that comes from just trying to have a pure intention of what you're doing. And I believe maybe, inshallah, that's one of the factors where we believe Wonda Mix is, inshallah, trying to go to the right direction, because we always try to remind ourselves what is our foundation to the best of our ability is to help the communities, try to give back, try to inspire, and try to educate and share that information, whether it might be now or, inshallah, in the long run. And as long as we're patient with that, it should hopefully work, inshallah.
Inshallah. Wonda, thank you so much for a beautiful concluding answer. Wonda, Hamza, thank you so much for joining us today. You've given us invaluable advice and the kind of insights into your perspectives, your journeys. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue blessing you in everything you do and make you a great source of inspiration to everyone here and beyond. Can we quick round of applause for our panel? Do we have time for questions, or we next segment? If you could. Any questions? We've got time for 2 questions. For Hamza? Or Wonda?
For Hamza.
For Hamza. Okay,
So he mentioned a lot about working on the inner self, working on the mind. This is something that I've personally struggled with. I'm a massive overthinker, especially when it comes to taking a plan. I always like to question myself every day. How do you balance between actual good strategic planning that is beneficial to you and stopping it from getting to a point where you're just shooting yourself in the foot and asking too many questions and committing to the plan essentially?
So just to understand your question, the question is, for those who didn't hear, you've got a plan, you want to succeed in your plan, but the problem is you're in between taking action and actually planning it out and coming up with ideas, and you're still in the planning stage.
Yes, I think it's important to have planning in place so that you're not going into it really. But at the same time, for myself, one of the things that I struggle with is like self-doubt. Like, am I even good enough to do it? What if it doesn't work? What if I'm wasting my time? Like things like that.
No, definitely. No, and thank you very much, Bahir, for being open and vulnerable and asking that question. In terms of, I'll tell you as a secret. Every person has self-doubts, whether they're a millionaire, multi-millionaire. I've sat in rooms with people that have made hundreds, and they all say the same thing. We do get those doubts. We do get those questions. We do get those fears. But the difference between us and them is that they know how to handle it. They know how to, the moment that thought comes in, they don't even entertain it. You'll see a lot of athletes, for example, before the race, they'll always get asked after after they finish the race, were you nervous? And they'll say to you, no, I wasn't. Because they've translated that nerve into an excitement, because it's the same feeling. Nervousness and excitement, they come from the same place, same emotion, the same feeling. You guys probably can tell the difference as well. But there's not much of a difference between the two. However, if the way you translate it, what you focus on, can empower what you're feeling. So, to answer your question in terms of if there are certain things that are stopping you, it's okay, it's natural, and it's okay for those things to come up. But what's unnatural is for us to be focusing on it too much and then creating a whole new story of why it wouldn't work, because that's something that we're entertaining. And I've always said, in terms of the biggest thing that can change your life is what you focus on. So if something happened right now, say for example, I mumbled, for example, I'm mumbling whatever, yeah? I can translate it as, oh my God, I'm bad, I'm a terrible speaker, that's it, I need to stop. Boom, I went into a rabbit hole of being negative to myself. Or I can say, you know what, I'm human, it's okay, and it's part of the journey, and I'll grow, and then now I'm going to a different empowerment state. It's the state that you go into, it makes a big difference. So whenever you feel you're having these doubts and these questions and whatever it is, the best thing you can do is just changing your state, as in changing how you feel, moving your physiology. Maybe the way you're talking, change the way you're talking, talk with more power, with more force, with more energy, and then that will by default help you change your state, I would say.
Yeah, please.
I know you didn't ask me this, but I can kind of relate to how you feel. And Hamza mentioned great points, so I want to just echo a couple of things. Going back to the Islamic side, these are just wiswas, These are things that obviously Shaitan doesn't want you to do, right? So the first step is just to ignore that. As he was saying, just ignore the noise. And the second thing is just to understand the beauty of what's written. Try, if it's not written for you, go on to the next thing, Once you incorporate that principle, I think your heart will be at ease, and it will allow you, it will also give you confidence to do what you wanted to initially do, actually, which was like, okay, if it doesn't work out, the best of planner didn't decree for you. But that should hopefully give you the confidence to plan better, maybe strategize, also make dua, so maybe your qadar can change. All these little factors should hopefully give you the confidence to break that fear that you might have. But the most important part is just ignore the noise. Literally, the quicker you ignore it, the better you get. I know it's easy because all of us suffer from overthinking, and we're in a time where we've been bombarded with information, where we start to compete with others when your biggest competition should be you, And again, that starts from ignoring the noise that's around you, whether it's your friends, whether it's your tool that you're using, your social media, is be like, okay, I need to be the best version of myself, you know? And there's a saying, right? There's a saying, there's two types of people that look at a mirror, yeah? And do you want to be the person that looks at the mirror from your house on others? Or do you want to be the person that looks at himself in the mirror towards him, right? Because the one that looks at others, he'll misjudge them, you might fear what they're doing, that you might not want to incorporate that in yourself, so you're going to be in your little bubble. When you start to face your own challenges and look at yourself in the mirror, that is the first thing where it's the level of self-improvement. So it's like, which mirror do you want to be? Does that make sense? So ask yourself, which mirror do I want to be? And once the quicker and the faster you get into the mirror that you want to look at yourself only, whether that's spiritually, physically, mentally, that's going to be, inshallah, your route to self-improvement. And I wish you the best with this as well, bro. Yeah.
Thank you, lads, for those answers. If I may just throw my 2 cents in as well. I remember speaking to a sheikh who is a specialist in psychiatry. So he blends both Islamic traditional thinking with psychiatry. And we did an episode with him actually. And one of the things that he was asked a similar question to that. So one of the answer he gave is that envision these voices, whether it's self-doubt, whether it's procrastination, whether it's negative self-thinking, envision it as a snowball at the top of the mountain. So when you're at the peak of the mountain and those voices first start, it's just a snowball. Now if you let it go down the mountain, unchecked, it'll pick up speed, it'll pick up power, and it'll go at some point from being a snowball into an avalanche. So with this analogy, what he was trying to say is the point where you have the most power is right at the beginning. So when it's still a snowball, you have the power to control it at that time. So whether it's Hamza's approach or Wanda's approach, both of them go to the root, which is deal with it right at the beginning, before it gets out of control, and you're in a place now where it's overwhelming you. As soon as you hear it, as soon as it starts, because we know what it feels like. We know what it feels like when it starts. Grab it, choke it, finish it. Whether it's through changing your physiology or your environment, or positive speaking, whether it's changing your environment, or whether it's Wanda's approach, deal with it right at the beginning. And you're not always going to succeed, but 9 times out of 10, deal with it at the beginning, and you have control. So that's something I learned from the Sheikh. His name's Yasser Fazag. He's an incredible Sheikh. If you want to search him up on YouTube, inshallah.
Also, you need to have an animal instinct, right? If now a snake is coming to you, what's the first thing you're going to do? React and run away, right? I hope everyone reacts and run away. Or are you going to let it come to you so it stings you? No. So you need to have that human instinct. If you apply all these things, it's the same thing. Just react, yeah? So, because once that snake goes, it's going to poison you. And the biggest poison is your mind. You don't want your mind to be poisoned when you increase in self-doubt, because trust me, it can go into a lane where you might fear for yourself. So first thing, react. If a snake is coming, run away. Throw it out your head. Everything that we just said is the same thing, but just coming from a different perspective.
We've got time for one more question, if there is one. Sisters, we have to, I don't know, we have to be just, did I see one of the sisters? Sister in the back? Yeah? Yeah.
To be fair, yeah, so thank you for that question, by the way, sis. To be fair, I've always been installed in confidence, right? It doesn't mean I don't have challenges where we feel doubtful, insecure, whatever it might be. But again, it goes back to that animal instinct of just blocking those negative thoughts. So everything that I have done, I was quite confident I was able to, even if I didn't have the ability or the knowledge. And I felt like that's one of the key aspects that I would encourage everyone and instill within yourself, your family, your friends, is to instill that self-confidence. It's not arrogance. You know, you can put me in a room and I could be around doctors, I have no knowledge of it, but I feel in my own mind, even if it sounds deluded, that I can pick up on everything, you know, and that comes from just having that self-belief that, you know, if they can do it, I can do it. I just see it like this, everyone goes to the same toilet, so I'm not intimidated or anything of that nature. Sorry for that beautiful example, but what I'm trying to say is that self-confidence is something that is a skill set that you can take in anywhere that you want to go around the world, you know, and even if you have that self-doubt, it's something that you can turn it around. It's not hard, it's a skill set that you can actually learn. It's not something that's God-given, it is something that you can actually do it within your soul. So for me, it wasn't anything that's like, oh, this is it. It was anything that any predicament I was in, I was confident. Especially if I even go back to the first thing maybe people might not acknowledge was, I was confident to do something where it was kind of taboo in our community, you know, and now it's normalized. And I was not scared or anything or intimidated by opinions or any backlash because I was so confident. And and that's why I want to instill in everyone here. Confidence does not negate anything about your personality or your arrogance. I think everyone's intelligent enough to know what arrogance is and what confidence is. And yeah, just be the hell confidence in this world, man. Otherwise, other people are going to come and take your spot.
You know, we can take Hamza's question as well. Yeah?
You said that you worked with, you know, if you're a life coach, and you've done a lot of work with different people, so I'm a bit nervous.
That's okay.
You talked about having like a mindset shift and that like a lot of issues that you have, you know, when you meet people in your coaching and that definition of their mindset and like you said that it pulls them back. So I wanted to ask you, what's like common mindset like blockage you have that comes up a lot in your coaching sessions, and like what would you put in advice to that? Like a common one that a lot of people like in terms of mindset to get into the next step.
Absolutely, no, thank you for that question. One of the most common ones is fear. It's an emotion. By the way, when we talk about mindset, majority of the time it's an emotion. It's an emotion, whether it's fear, whether it's sadness, whether it's whatever it is, it's just the emotion. Now the question is, this emotion is natural, is okay for that emotion to come, that fear emotion is natural. What's unnatural is for us to be building onto the emotion. So one of the biggest fears is like fear of failure, fear of success for those that are succeeding, fear of not being loved, fear of not being enough, not being worthy, feeling like you're not good enough, those are the main things, and it all comes down to two main fears. All the fears, they all come under these two main fears. The first one is fear of not being good enough, whether it's fear of failure, whatever the case, they all come under fear of not being good enough. And the other fear is fear of not being loved, that you will do certain things and you're not going to get the love that you want. These are innate feelings that everyone desires. And one of the biggest ways to overcome these fears is by first understanding that where these fears are coming from and trying to actually understand why is this fear here. And the fear might be, and you can actually backtrack and you can ask yourself, why is this here? And your mind will give you an answer. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's up to you. But your mind is telling you something for a reason. It's because it's not random, it's a specific thing. And you can backtrack it to exactly where it came from. But in a nutshell, if you want to break this cycle of fear or whatever it is, one of the things I said earlier was physiology, and I didn't expand on it, I'll expand on it now. What I mean by that is, for example, if you see someone who's depressed, how do they look? Their shoulders are slouched, they're looking down, they're very sad. The whole physiology is screaming, I am depressed. The first thing we do in coaching is sit up, sit properly, because when you sit up, your physiology changes, the way you talk changes, and the way you approach things changes. When athletes come to me, for example, I ask them questions. Okay, tell me a time when you had the perfect day. What did you do? How was your body? How did you talk to yourself? And we analyze the A to Z. And I'll say to them,
do you do this? They're like, well, I don't do this. And you'll see it. You'll see in TV. You will see in, like when you're watching football or any games, whatever. You'll see certain athletes before they do a certain ritual, whether it's taking a shot, they'll do a deep breath in. They want to go into that zone because they've learned how to get into that zone. And there's an amazing book on this called Relentless. I'd highly recommend it if you guys want to read it. And it goes into this a lot more detail. And I think that's one of the best ways to break those patterns. But there's a lot of other ways, but that's one of the best ones I can tell you.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Incredible value. Allahumma barik. May Allah reward you all. I think that's unfortunately, I'm sure we can grill these two all day in one night, but we're going to have to conclude that there for this segment. Once again, Jazakallah khair, Wonda and Hamza, for your time and your presence. If we can give one more round of applause for our